Okay, and then this time we are going to continue with the discussion, and like I said, we'll be talking about the grid view. So if you have any questions or clarification, please share it with the class, and then you can call, or you can also send your questions here in our group chat and our in messages in Google Meet, or you can also send it through our Facebook chat group. So previously, like I said, we discussed about the introduction to responsive web design. Particularly, we've talked about the viewport and media query. So far, do you have? I'm pretty sure everybody's already done with the assignment so far. And so, how's the assignment for you guys? How was it? Nakaya ra? Of course, kaya. Right, that's good to hear. So anyway, this time, if you can remember, the viewport is about basically that is the resolution that will be displayed in our computer. So, not in our computer, but on our mobile device. So, as you can remember, maybe you've also noticed it that since mobile devices like smartphones, iPhone, or Android, or tablets, since they are generally smaller compared to desktop, therefore, um, the browser will tend to increase the resolution of or decrease the resolution of the mobile devices. In that way, it will appear larger in our eyes, diba? Although, and then we've also discussed, I've also shown you the common resolutions for the different devices like computers, smartphones, etc. And basically, you have to take note all of those because you will be, especially on your device. If I've asked you to research what is the resolution and the viewport of the device that you're using, because basically that we'll be using your device, or we are going to base our work from this point and on your device, or dun sa man gani imo ang or whatever it is that you own. So if you have a smartphone or a tablet, or if you have PC, basically we're going to utilize those, we're going to use those, and we're going to base our work with whatever it is that you have. Right? And then second, we've also discussed about the media query. So the media query is basically that is the functions that we'll be using. In that way, we'll be able to adapt our website according to the different screen sizes and resolutions. So again, like we've discussed before, different devices have different resolutions. So our goal as web designers to design website that is capable of adapting to different screen sizes and screen resolutions. And media query is a CSS function that will allow us to perform just that. So I'm pretty sure. By the way, do you have any questions regarding with our previous discussion? Na po mo yung mga nalibgan sa atong previous discussion before we proceed? Okay, that's good to hear. All right, so babe, tanaw na to yung mga. Okay, so I'm going to check. We're going to check some of the works that you submitted already. Would that be okay? Na ako yung. Tunang tanawan niyo mga. Di ba, I've only asked you to send a screenshot. So it's okay. Anyway, I'm just going to select. Let's see from section A daw. Okay lang ba? Ipakita na ko yung trabaho. Some of you. Not all of you, but some of you guys. Of course, okay na. Wait, there are only 8 submissions for section A. 8 naman lagi. Alright, please make sure to work on your assignment, guys, okay? Let's check in some way. Sa assignment sa ITS 300. Okay, let's check ano kay may naguna. Yun kanay Miss Ibarita. Alright. Would that be okay, Barita? I'm going to show your work to everybody. So we have the HTML code, the CSS code. Okay. The output for mobile. Alright, it's good. And output for desktop. Alright, okay, that's good. Okay, again, there are only 8 submissions for section A. Let's check section B though. B and C rather. 6. There are only 6 submissions for BNC. Okay? I understand that we're very busy right now, but please work on it because I'm going to check it this weekend. Let's check kaning ka asipo dapat. Di lang kita taglain ka na ay wala gizip. Okay, usara ka attachment. Okay. Okay, usara ka. Screenshot. Anyway, make sure to save everything that you've already created because, like I said before, we're going to continue from where we from where we from where we stop. We're going to continue basically every time that we're going to have a class. Hinahinayin natong trabaho ang atong website until such time that we'll be able to develop a full-blown website good. Okay, so make sure to save everything that you've already created, especially since last week. And expectedly we're going to continue with the same project, and then we're going to continue. And today we're going to add something to our website. So again, this week we'll be talking about the second part or the next part of responsive web design. This time, the grid view. So just a review. Meaning responsive web design, it is about or adding responsiveness to a website means enabling the page to adapt to different screen sizes and resolution because we want our website to be able to be viewed both mobile devices and personal computers, diba? Because especially nowadays, mas daghan na kayong nigamit o kadalasan nato mo access ta sa internet is using mobile devices. So that's why aside from designing our website for PC, which is common, we also have to design our website for mobile devices, right? So that is our goal in doing this lesson, responsive web design. So while desktop and laptop displays are in landscape orientation, wider and tall, many mobile devices can be rotated to show websites in both landscape and portrait orientations. This means that designers and developers must design for these differences. So again, the grid view. So what exactly is the grid view? Many web pages are based on a grid view, which means that the page is divided into columns. Right? So basically, the grid view is one of the most important tool or one important technique in designing a responsive website that will allow us to have full control on how we're going to design it. So basically, using the grid view, mas dali kay ta maka-design. Mas mapadali na atong pag-design. At the same time, we'll able to make sure that our website is responsive ready, meaning it is ready to be responsive. So most websites are using a grid view, or most websites uses grid view. And I should suggest that the reason why that we included these lessons sa ato ang class is because I want you guys to practice creating websites using the grid view. Right? What exactly is a grid view again? Basically, it's just a bunch of columns that is being bunches of columns that you're going to set for your website. In that way, it would be easy for you to control it. So using a grid view is very helpful when designing a web page, designing web pages. It makes it easier to place elements on the page. Again, the grid view is useful for controlling how the elements are placed, and generally it just makes the designing using hard codes, coding the design much easier. So a responsive grid view often has 12 columns and has a total of width of 100% and will shrink and expand as you resize the window. So this is an example of a grid view. So this is just an example of a website or a web page that uses grid view. So again, basically a general idea of grid view is you're just going to create 12 columns. ang imong web page magama rin kag 12 columns. Some designers will create more, but this is the common 12. So just imagine ang imong web page, you're going to fold it 12 times, diba? For example, this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So basically, there are 12 columns, and that is your grid. So it would be easy for you to magbahig og mga layout, mga boxes, or mga elements. It's um, because of this grids. Okay, so allow me to show to you an example grid view that I've created just a while ago. Hold on. Okay, so again, this is an example grid view. So basically, we've created a grid vertically. In that way, it would be easy for us to place or layout or place an element to our design. So one of the most important thing, one of the feature or the benefit of using grid view for designing is its responsiveness. So this is the desktop view, right? So I'm using desktop, so therefore this is the desktop view. Now, if I'm going to if I'm going to view it in mobile view, then here's how it's going to look like. So if the notice that the columns, diba? If we're going to view it in desktop mode, just like that, notice that the columns are obviously since the screen is wider, medyo wide po da atong column. Kabante mo? Wide ang column, but if in mobile view, nigamay po ang column, right? Mas nanigpis. But it's still there. There are still 12 columns in there, and then the columns just automatically adjust or adapt to the size of the screen. So ideally, you will be able to use this as an advantage, since the columns are capable of adjusting to the different screen sizes. Then we can use that in designing our website, in or perhaps putting elements to our web design without without changing the entire things, because we know that the grid will just automatically adapt to the width of our screen. Do you follow? Okay, let's have another example. So this one. So basically, this is just a general view of a grid. This is just a very simple grid view. So I've created column again. Our goal here is to create 12 columns in our web page, and these columns will just automatically adjust or adapt to the different screen sizes. So this is another use of grids. So and then let me open up. I think napakailain dire. This one. Okay, note. So this is an example of a web design layout that uses grid. So although di na makita ang grid, but I'm actually using grid for this one. So this is the desktop view, and if I'm going to view it in mobile view, it's going to look like this. So can you see the difference? Gaena is kani. So let's take a look at the kaning three boxes here. So right now it's arranged horizontally. Nagpatalay siya pakilid. But if we're going to view it in mobile view, nagpatalay siya vertically. Alright, so that is one of the benefit of using grid in using in grid in that is the benefit of designing a website using grid. So basically one of the benefit of using grid is basically it's just for layouting. That would be easy for us to lay out our all the elements of our web design or web page for both desktop and mobile device. So just think of it that grid view will be used for layouting. So for today's lesson, we are going to continue with the layout of our web page, although we're not really going to put elements to it yet. That will be on our next meeting. But today, we are going to create layouts for our website. So nakaplano na mag-unsa inyong buhaton sa inyong website? Uy, lupat lagi akong headset. Sure, all right. So today, here's what we're going to do. So basically, I've already created, may akong nadugayan actually is um, for our next meeting, here's what we're going to do. So, yeah. So this is also a design using grid, but obviously, gibutangan na ako color, gibutangan na ako elements, but this would be my plan for my design, di ba? Laylay matag plan on our own, depending on sa iyong ganahan. So, right now, I've created this, I've laid out, ako siyang gigama using Photoshop, and this is what I plan to work on for my project. So, here's what you're going to do after this class. What part of your assignment is you're going to create say tawag ani gani? Say tawag ani? If you can remember back in our previous lessons. Yeah, but na specific name ani. If you can remember back in our WDLC or Web Development Lifecycle na lesson, prepare kag inani para sa imong design. Before you created your website, you have to prepare a design. What do you mean by this preparation? Wireframe. Okay, very good. So this is an example of a wireframe. So I've created this using Photoshop. So um, basically, this is what I want my design to look like, and hopefully, I will be able to perhaps makuha na ko na sa coding. And part of your assignment is you're going to create the wireframe of your website just like this using any application possible. Let's say Adobe Photoshop, Canva, or maybe just Microsoft Word, and then that will be your goal in creating the website for the entire semester. But this is not going to be our lesson for today. Notice that inside this boxes, or basically, if we're going to remove all of these icons, o kanang mga elements, we have boxes, right? So natay box for example, sa navigation. So the navigation we already created this last time. So that is a box, and this one is also a box. This is also a box, and that. So basically, today we're just going to create boxes for our website using the grid view. So notice that everything is a box, and then we're not going to write any elements yet, just like this. We're just going to create the boxes, or basically the overall layout of our design. All right. So first is, so let's start creating our grid view. So building a responsive grid view. Let's start building a responsive grid view. First, ensure that all HTML elements have the box sizing property set to border box. This makes sure that the padding and border are included in the total width and height of the elements. So basically, this is just one of the first things that you're going to do whenever we're going to create a grid view. Okay, so we're going to set in our CSS that all box sizing is for border box, meaning this makes sure that the padding and border are included in the total width and height of the elements. All right, so let me open up. All right, let me create a website here. And then let's create our HTML file inside this website. All right, so let me just create the basic structure of an HTML file. Hold on. All right. And for as for the CSS, ibutang rin ako ang CSS diri, okay? Please don't be confused because the atong naandan nga CSS is the external styling, meaning we're going to create a separate CSS and then we're going to connect it right here. But since this is just for the sake of discussion, I'm just going to use an internal CSS, meaning I'm going to use the style tag and then this is where I'm going to write the CSS codes. So again, the first thing that we're going to do is to add the following code in our CSS. So we're going to set that everything, all the box sizing is for border box. So to do so, let's write asterisk, and then let's border, box sizing is border box. Box sizing is equal to border box. All right, and then next. So this is an example of using the grid view. So the following example shows a simple responsive web page with two columns. So let's try to create this. So we're going to create a grid that only uses two columns. So one column is 25% and the other one is 75%. So if we're going to add 25 and 75, obviously that is 100%. So maybe one thing that you have to take note in creating a grid is to make sure, is to basically you have to understand that we are trying to utilize the entire screen. So since we are trying to utilize the entire screen of the device, then we're always going to set the width into 100%. Now, our goal, aturabuhatan is since if we want to utilize the entire thing, then we'll use, it must be 100%, meaning we're just going to divide the 100% according to how many columns we are going to include in our web page. Diba? So for example, if mugama kog duha ka column, na same na column, what would be the percentage, guys? So again, we want to utilize the 100% screen. And ganahan ko mo create og two columns na same size. What would be the width of the, okay, 50%, 50%? Because we want the sides to be equal, diba? And we have to make sure that we will utilize the 100%, meaning the entire screen. What happens if, let's say, 80% lang? Then 80% lang po ang ma-display sa ating screen. So if ato siyang i-transfer sa mobile device, 80% lang po sa mobile device ang magamit. Diba? Again, we don't know exactly the size of the screen that we are viewing because some people will view it using the phone, some people will view it on a desktop. Therefore, since we don't know the entire width of the device that they're using, we are going to use percent. And again, we're going to utilize, if we're going to utilize the entire screen, it should be 100% width. Now, this time, let's try to create, okay, let's just show that to you. Let me show it to you para mas masamtan. So let's write in our HTML body, let's use a division tag, and then let's call it column, let's just say col1, okay? And then close div. So we're going to create, and then class, and then let's call the second column as col2. So basically, if we're going to create the next thing that you're going to know is when we're going to create a grid, we're going to use the division tag. All right. So since I've asked you to do a research on your own, so I'm pretty sure you already know what division means. Okay. So we have two divisions here. The first one is we call it col1, meaning column one, and the second is column two. Now, so for us to create a grid, then we're going to use the CSS, right? So since we are using class, what would be the selector that we'll be using for our CSS? If class unsa lang ganito, if you want to call a class for our CSS, how we were going to write it. Everyone, who can remember? Wala? Madahan. Again, if you're going to use class, we're going, if we're going to call a class for our CSS, we're going to use dot. Diba? Everyone, nalimot mo? Okay. Wala bitay mo dakop og masay pang answer. So, ginagay mo ra ko gaspit in the class today. So, every time that I will ask you a question, please try to respond, okay? Hindi ta mo makita. Yeah, di pumuting o mura ko gadulas space in the class ani. Okay, again, if we're going to call a class for our CSS, we're going to use dot and then the class name. So for call one, we're going to set the width into, let's say, again, say width na to, 50%. Okay. We're going to set the width to 50%, and then let's just set the height to, let's give it 100 pixel lang sa para makita nato. And then para makita dyan nato, and then we're going to create a border, and then 1px solid, and let's give it red color. Ano lang sa. So for column 1, it's got 50% width, meaning whatever it is that the size of the width, I'm sorry, whatever it is that the size of the width of the device that we are viewing, it will always use 50% of it. So meaning if the width of the device is 1080p, then it will utilize 540 pixels because it will use 50% only. All right, and then for our column 2, let's do the same. So let's set the width to, so since 50 ang atong una, what would be the second? 50 po, because again, we want it to be 100% all the time. And then let's set the height to 100 px gyapon, and then border, same thing, we're going to 1 pixel na solid, and then it's color red. Okay, let's save that, and then let's open it up. Okay, yeah, thank you, thank you. All right, hold on. All right, so here, this is the output. Okay, so right now it uses 50% of the width, di ba? So bisag ako pa na i-scroll down, kung zoom out, 50% rin yung gamiton. If you're going to zoom it in, 50% rin yung gamiton. So right now, how do we make this into move into this part? We're going to use the um, float tag, okay? Not tag, but property. So let's go back to our code, and then we're going to set the column. We're going to add float left. This will allow for both the and for both the columns. We're going to set float left, meaning it will always start from the left, and then it will float, and then it will move to the right. Nanaba. So it will move to the right, but it from starting from the left. So that's why we'll write float left. So let's open it up, and then let's reload. Hold on, let me close this kinaglag akong computer. Let me close. Okay, let's reload here. Okay, so basically we've created a basic column, basic grid, but we only have two columns. So again, we are using 50% here and then 50% here. Now, what about if we're going to change the first column to, let's say, 25? And just to maintain the 100%, what would be the size of the other column? Pila siguro? Huh? 75. All right. So let's check that. Let's save. So we have 25 for the first column. We have 75 for the second column. Let's save that. And then let's reload. All right. So same thing. We're still using the entire screen, diba? But we just moved or we changed the size of the columns. So we have 25% here, and then we have 75% here. So same thing with Gapon. If we're going to, let's say, change it down to 10, then therefore the second should be, or the second width should be 90, right? Let's save that. Let's reload. Okay. By the way, makita ba sa inyong screen? So let me zoom in. Yan na. All right, so we have 10% here and then we have 90% here. So basically that is the idea of columns. Grid. We'll be able to, it would be easy for us to control on how are we go, asa na to ibutang ato ang mga layouts, ato mga elements because of the grids. But obviously, this is not the grid yet because based on the discussion, we have to create pila to kabuok to make it a grid pila kabuok 12, right? So we have most of the grids have 12 columns and has a total width of 100% and will shrink and expand as you resize the browser window. So far, we only have two. Okay? So, what are we going to do para makakreate of 12 columns? What do you think are we going to do? What would be the size of the entire screen? So obviously, we're going to open up our calculator. Okay, so we have our calculator, and we are trying to right, so let's say 100% divided by 12 columns. Therefore, each column should have 8.33 na 8.33 na width, 8.33%. All right. So that's what we're going to do for us to be able to create. For us to get started with designing our website, we have to create first a grid. Okay. So let's open up our code again. Yeah. To have more control over the web page, we will use a responsive grid view with 12 columns. First, we must calculate the percentage for one column. So 100% divided by 12 columns, that is 8.33. Then we make one class for each of the columns. Let's call it class call, and then a number of defining how many columns the section should span. All right. So obviously, we're going to create 12 columns, and we have to make sure that each column should have 8.33 na na width. All right. So let's open up our code real quick. So same thing, we're just going to copy this, and then we're going to ato na siyang i-paste na to siya og 12. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right. So let's change column 1. Hold on. Let me change that again. So we're just going to erase this since everything is the same. So we're going to set it to 8.33. Let's call it column 1, 8.33, and then we're just going to copy and duplicate this 12 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let's check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, so let's save that and let's reload. So here we have our grid. Okay, so we're just going to remove these spaces in here. Kung saan dito para magamit natin ng space, kabantay mo na siya padding. How we're going to remove this padding? Okay, so makinom daw. Okay, let's go back to kaning asterisk. Let's just set the margin to 0. And then padding 0. Let's save that. Let's reload. Okay, para mas ma-utilize natin the entire screen. So we already have a grid. Now, sir, unsa man ito na para maka-design ta og web page? Now, first is let's try to check if true ba jud to. Patas anak gamay ha. Patong patas agamay. So let's give it about 300 pixels. Okay. So how are we going to make this usable? Okay, so let's just check because it says there's a discussion here. But by using the percentage, by using the grid, the grid should automatically adapt to the different screen sizes, right? So let's try to check that using on mobile view. So here, diba? Although our screen is too small, is gamay ra katong screen for our device, it is still complete 12 columns. Basically, the columns will just automatically compress if the device is smaller, and it will automatically expand if the device is bigger. So right now it's on iPhone 10. So let's just set it responsive. So basically, bisag unsa man gani width sa ato ang web page, it will automatically adjust to it because we are using percentage and we are using the grid. Right? So how can we make it usable? We have para mahimo na to siyang usable for our design. We're going to we're going to we're going to compute or we go atong ihapon og unsay sizes niya on the moment that it will span, di ba? So we know that this right here, unsa gitoy size ani? Kani sa column 8.33, right? So we know that this is 8.33. Now, what about if I'm going to create a box that is going to utilize this screen? Kani duha ka column. So what would be the width now? That is 8.33 times 2. Okay? So basically, using the grid, we'll be able to maka-create na ta og, let's say, maka-create na ta og um, boxes that will utilize the entire grid. Okay? So for example, if mo create kog box nga mo utilize og um, three boxes here, kaning three ka columns, then I'm just going to use this these three grids with these three columns, and then for the next box, I'm going to use the remaining um, nine. Okay? So para mas magamit nato siya, here's what we're going to do. Let's open up our C++ again. And then we are going to create, diba? Let's go back to our we make one class for each of the 12 columns. We'll call it call, and then dash, and then the number, defining how many columns that section spans. So meaning it should look something like this. So for the first column, meaning if we're going to create a column that is only about 8.33% only, then we will use call one. Basically, we're going to prepare a ready-made na siya na grids using this, and then we will just going to call the class representing the size. So for example, ganahan ko 50% nga box, then I'm going to call 6. If I'm going to use about 75% of the box, I'm just going to use call 9. Do you follow? Basically, we'll create taog box. We're going to create a grid using code, and then we're going to, whenever we're going to use the certain amount of size, we're just going to call this. All right. So let's open up our DevC plus our Notepad plus plus, and then let's open it again. So for now, let me just erase all of this. Okay, erase on sana ko na eh. And then let's set that our call one is so for our call one, meaning if we're going to use one column, basically that is the first column that we're going to use out of 12. So the size would be 8.33. Then we're going to create another call, which will compute that a total of 2 columns. So that means the call to would be with, and then 8.33 times 2, that is 16.66, right? So 16.66%, And basically, we're going to continue creating a CSS code for each column, for each grid, until call 12. So basically, if call 12, that is already 100%. So next is 25%. So basically, the call 3 is a total width of 3 columns. And then for call 4, so atong button is mugamara ta og CSS that will determine the width of the entire screen, di ba? Of the entire, I'm sorry, for the of each column, and then every time that we're going to use that column, we're just going to call this. Okay. So next is we have 33.33. So let me just copy this lang para mas madali. Hold on. All right. So giyon sa nato pag come up aning computation aning mga numbera. Kani, for example, 58.33. So that is 8.33 multiplied by the number of column. So for example, for the 58.33, that is 8.33 times 7. So let's just see how they work. So let's create another division here. Okay, let's create another division. So let me save that real quick. Di ba mo manihit so that's atong web page kayo na. Okay, hold on. Okay, so for example, if we're going to create a division, ano, dali lang ha. Let me fix this para it would be easy for us to understand. So, ito height, tagaan na to siya of 100 pixel. Gayon, border is 1 pixel solid red. Let's reload. Okay, so we're going to use this grid for us to be able to create columns. So let's open up our dev C++ or Notebook++, and what if I'm going to create a column that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 columns. So the only thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a div, and then I'm going to use a class, and then let's say call 7, meaning I'm going to create a box which is I'm going to create a box that is equivalent to 7 columns, and then that's it. I'm just going to call 7. Let's save that, and then let's reload. Hold on. So let's just set a height na lang kadali. Height is about 100 px, and then ano hindi siya magana. Isa man. 4, 7, 8. Hold on, kaya mo rin ba siya? Ha? Hindi, kay sa call one man eh. Okay na siya, mag-create ko lain nga, mag-create ko lain nga, I think nasa sa kilid. I think nara ko na nasip yata na. Hold on, kadali ra sa ha. My apologies. Order 1 PX. Solid. Wala di ay nakabutay solid di ay. Save that. Lagyan ko. Hi. Hold on, let me fix this real quick. Okay. But generally, if we're going to create the width, we're going to create a width or a certain layout that has the certain width, then we're just going to use the call an F. Alright? So let's try to use that in our web page. So last time, dili ako to. Asong tanan ko to gani. Last time, this is where we stop.
So this is where we stopped last time, di ba? We only created a navigation link that is responsive, meaning it will adapt to PC just like this, and then for mobile device just like that. Sakto ba? Did mo na ito last in discussion? Yes, sir. Alright. So again, I've shown you my ako ipakita tamo sa mo ako ang let me just close the rest of it. Hindi mo gaan mugat na kayo ang laptop na hold on. Let me close all the other tabs. I-upgrade na gani siya mula grang hapon. Alright. So a while ago, I've shown you this. I've showed you this, and basically, this is what we're going to do for our. This is what am I going to do with my design. So first is since I've already created the navigation, then I'm going to create a box for my banner. All right. So what do you think is the size or the width of my banner if I'm going to copy this? Sa siguro width since this is full screen, kana 100%. So which of the column we're going to use? Call 12. Alright? So let me open up ato nga akong website. Hold on. So my site. Okay, let's open up any open with Notebook++. And then let me open up the CSS as well. Okay. So we have here the HTML on the left side and we have the CSS on the right side. Alright, so again, the first thing that we're going to do is, so basically this is what we did last time. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to set in our CSS, we've already set the box sizing to border box. I already did that last time. And then the padding and margin is 0. Makita ba diya? Box sizing is border and box. So I've already did this last time, but that's the first step. The box sizing is border box and margin and padding is 0. So next is we're going to create the grids, right? So let's write it right here. So let's okay. So I'm just going to copy this. So I know you already all you need to do is you're just going to copy this as well. So I have this is the size for my column 1, which is 8.33, column 2, something like that, so on and so forth. Alright? And then next is we're going to, para maset na to tanan, for everything to be set to float left. So either I'm going to add a float left here, butangan ba na ako para automatic na siya mo float left ba? Either I can write this, pwede na ako anaon, or if it's too much to kuan, it's that if it's too much work, then pwede ko magama another trick in CSS is that I can automatically set a property for all of this. As you've noticed, ang iyang class name are almost similar. Kung say similar sa ilahang class name, notice that everything starts with call, di ba? And they only differ with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So basically, one trick in kuan, naayo sa ka-trick sa CSS that will allow you to create or to add properties to all the CSS selectors that have similar names is using this. So That's open and close bracket, and then class, and then asterisk is equals to call dash, diba? Meaning all the class name that has call in it, diba? Asterisk meaning all the class that has call dash, all right, will have this property float left. All right. So meaning, si call 1, 2 up until 12 will automatically be given the property float left. So again, to do so, since similar parehata na iyang name, they only differ with the numbers, then we can write class, meaning all class that starts with call dash will have property float left. Meaning automatic na niya siyang na float left. Do you follow? Alright. So next is let's go back to our design. Again, I want my design to look something like, nawala na po. Hold on. Balik na po. Open. Okay. I want my design to look like this. Ano naman ka? Okay, again, I want the design to look like this. So I already created the navigation at the top. So next is I'm going to create this box. Again, this is just for layout purposes. So let's open up our CSS and then our HTML file. So inside the navigation, or not inside, but below the navigation, I'm going to create here a division, and then let me add a class name. Unsa gyud yung class name dapat para 100%? Call 12, right? So meaning call 12, the width would automatically be 100%. Okay? So let's close that. Now, since the our call here only got, nara man siya, ang atong giset sa column is just the width. Now, what about if we're going to add a height, we're going to add a color, we're going to add background colors, then we can use another ID. We can either use another selector using ID, diba? And then, for example, let's call it banner, and then we'll call it in here using hash, diba? Because we're using ID. Or another trick in CSS is that if we're going to let's go back to the class. Let's close this. Let's erase ID. You can use multiple class, by the way. You can use multiple class name in one element. To do so, so we have call one, and then if I'm going to add space, and then let's call it banner, meaning this particular division has two classes, na siya call 12 and banner. Alright? So again, you can add multiple class name in one HTML element. You just have to add space. The space will separate the call 12 to and banner. Meaning I can call this banner just like that. Again, the first one is for our call 12, which is 100%, this one. And the second banner is for us to be able to add background colors, set the width, so on and so forth. So to do so, we know that we are using call 12, meaning it will have 100% width, and then we're just going to add a height, and I want the height to cover the entire screen. So let's say 100 view height. We say 100 view height, it will cover the entire screen, gikan sa top to bottom. Okay, it will whatever it is at the size of the device, it will cover from top to bottom. Mura siya 100% sa width, but 100% of the height. That is 100 view height. Alright? And then let's set the color or background color to kani. Okay, so this is the color that I'm using. So I'm just going to copy this. I think MOBA. Hold on, let me check if MOBA. Right. Oh. Alright, so like I've advised you last time, you can use the colors from color.adobe.com. So I'm just going to copy this particular color. So this is the color palette that I want. And then let me change the background color to that. And then let's save. Let's check. Here. Okay. So basically, it gave us 100% width, and then we've also given 100% view height. Okay. So that's it. If we're going to check it in mobile view, and app. Next is so Next is let's proceed to the design again. Next is we have this box. So this box is equal na 50% here and a 50% here. Therefore, we are going to use salan call 6, which is the one that has 50%. So to do so, we're going to create another division again, and then let's call div class call dash 6, and then this time let's call it feature 1 and then left. All right. So meaning it will give us 50% width, and then let's call that feature in our CSS feature 1 left, and then same thing, we want the height to this time we want the height to be 100 view height again, meaning it will cover the entire screen. And then the background color, let me copy the color here. Kanina lang ang color. Klase ko nga, Teron. Patiwas sa klase, pinakanas kung maklase doon. Alright, so let's reload. Oh, wala na save. Let's reload again. Alright, tada. So we've created another box that has 50% width and then 100% height. So to add another one to the right, then same thing, we're going to create another division, and then let's call it class, and then call 6 Gabon 6 will be using 50%, and then let's call it this time feature 1 right, meaning it's in the right side, and then on our CSS we'll call feature one right, and then same thing, we'll set the height to 100 view height, and then background color to, let me use another color here again. How about, okay, this color, and then save. Let's reload. Okay, alright, let me change the color. Okay, pareho the color. Let me change it to something else. How about, kaya na lang. Okay, so I have another box again, 50% on the left side, 50% on the right side. Alright, so let's go back to the design. Here I'm going to add another box from the left side, which is another 50%, and then on the right side another 50%. So generally it would be the same. So we're just going to copy this, or we're just going to add another division again. We'll use call 6 lagi hapon. And then this time let's call it feature 2 left. Alright, and then on our CSS, same thing. Feature 2 left. And let's give it a height of 100 view height. And background color to this. And then let's add another one for the right. So let's copy this, paste that, let's give call it right. And then our CSS, same thing. Do you follow, by the way?
Sir. Yes, sir.
So basically, more than trabaho for this week, you're going to create layout. You're not going to necessarily add the elements. And then let's change the color to, let's say, kanina po. Thank you, Teron. Manag meeting? O na nakaano sumugod Teron siya alam balibaran pa na ako. Ha? Pauli na siya. Manag meeting ay? Okay. Alright. So that's it. And then lastly, we're going to create another box just for our kani, for the about, maybe about myself na page. So I want it to be, same thing. We're just going to copy paste this, copy that one. Asa doon? We're just going to copy this, but this time we're going to call it about, and then about me, yeah, about me right and about me left. So in our CSS, let's call it about me and then left. And same thing, we'll use the height. We're just going to copy this, and then the color is, and then same thing for the right. Let me copy this. Let's reload. Alright? So this is our design, and like I said, bisa sana to siya zoom in, zoom out. The width is not going to be, not the width and height will not change. Here I'm scrolling it that I'm zooming it in and out, but nothing has changed as regards to the width is because we're using grid. So meaning it will automatically adapt even if you're going to view it as mobile. Let's check. So here, we're currently viewing it in mobile, and right now, also notice the siya mobile. Alright? But, here's the thing. We want that whenever kani, kabantay mo nagbungkag siya, but in mobile, generally, it matunga ang ato ang mga elements, mugamay siya maayo, di ba? Generally, mugamay siya sa atong mobile. So, here's what we're going to do. So, gunantang pag mag-mobile, kani siya magpaubos. Magpaubos na siya. So what we're going to do is we'll open up to fix this. So let's open up our media.css. Dara may media.css. And then we are going to cancel our float. Our column width. We're going to cancel this because in mobile, dili na murag ang kanang mga 8.33%, so on and so forth. If ato na siya ibutang sa mobile, magkagamay siya sa samot, just like this. Right now, it looks good. It's because it's fine because since we are viewing it on the desktop. But if we're going to view it in, let's say, in a mobile view, kaya siya, if ato pa nibutang ng mga elements, let's say pictures or text, bugamay na maayo. So we want this kaninga right side will be automatically be at the bottom. Ana lang. So to do so, we're going to open up our media.css. And then, we'll cancel the grid. So, di ba, gaina is, for example, call 1 to 10, call 1 is 8.33, call 12 is 100%. This time, we want all the columns to be 100%. How do you think we're going to do? Saan siguro na ito siya, guys? Alright. So, we're going to use this, kanina siya nga, meaning tanan nga mga call 1, and then we'll change the width to 100%. Okay? So meaning, whenever we're on mobile view, kani siya, makancel na siya tanan, we want all the columns to be 100%. Para tanan ng columns mo fit sa ato ang screen. Because again, our goal here is to make a responsive website. Make sure na tanan mga elements will be displayed properly regardless of the device that we are using. Diba? So whenever we're on our mobile device, it will be cancelled. So let's check, let's reload, and now. So tanang mga boxes are now 100%. And maybe maybe we can also change the height because right now all of our height in set is 100 view height. So if we want, since dako siya kaayo and dako kaayo para sa mobile, we can change that. So we can either can manual na to siya. So for example, let's decrease the banner. Kailangan ko ang banner. Let's say ang banner lang mo 100%. Sunod is feature. Alright. Tanan nga feature is about 50% lang. So we're going to copy this again. And then let's replace it with feature. Meaning tanan yung mga na-start with feature. And the height will be about, instead of 100 view height, let's just give them 50 view height only. And then if we're going to reload, 50% na lang. So kabantay mo, 50% of the screen na ang i-occupy sa atong tulong boxes or feature, something like that. Alright, so do you have any questions regarding the grid? I know medyo nag-isip to explain today, especially with the errors, but just think of the grid as a guide that in creating a layout. Okay? So, do you have any question? Any mga nalibyan? Okay. So, here are some examples for grid. So, you can either try it yourself. Ay, wala din ako na full screen. Hold on. So, here's some example. You can either test it yourself. Let's analyze the first thing that we did. So basically, the first thing we did is we created a grid, 2 columns. The first one is 25%, and the second is 75%. Basically, the first column is 25, and the second column, which is 9, is 75%, a total of 12, or 100% in the entire row. So here's some example. So this is the HTML code that we're using, and this is the CSS, and this is the output if you want to create a grid. And then same thing with, there's another example. This is the HTML, and this is the CSS, and then this is the output. Alright, maybe I should probably try this. Let me show it to you just one last time para mas maklaro. But again, for our assignment, we're just going to create this. Okay, for our assignment, kanila lang sa atong buhaton. So what I want you to do is, you'll be doing two assignments. First is you're going to create a wireframe just like this, and same sa akong gibuhat. And then second is you're going to create the layout. Unya lang natututangan niya ni kaning mga gibutang background, all background pictures, mga text, mga pictures. Later lang natin maibutang. For the meantime, for this week, we're going to create just the boxes, just like what I'm doing here. And then the footer. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I should probably show you this katong sample grid view na okay na para mas maklaro. Hold on. Okay, for example, kanina. So this is an example layout on a let's say a desktop view, and then if we're going to view it in a mobile view, here's how it's gonna look like. So notice ang three, for example, kanina three boxes we have. Kanina marag yellow, then lime green ba or I don't know, and then kaning gray. Notice that they are right now they're aligned horizontally, but in mobile view, it's already they are aligned vertically, just like that. Alright, so same thing with the grid. So let's try to edit. Try natin siya edit using the grid, using what we learned about the grid. So let me open up the source code for that. Hold on. Alright. So same thing that I did a while ago. So you just have to copy this and then, make sure that everything is on float left. So first is you're going to create the column width, and then you're going to set everything to be float left. And then I've also added just padding 15 px. Let me just remove that to avoid any confusions. And then, alright. So first is, let's try to change this. Ganahan ko na to ang size niya. Right now it is, this is, if I'm not mistaken, this is 30, this is 40, and then this is 50%. So meaning this is called, sa tawag, 30. So this is call for. Okay, this is call for, and then here is call 5, and then call 6. Alright, let me change that. Let me check. Call 3, call 5, and call 4 line. Alright? So what if I'm going to, so kanina siya, ito ay palayo. Select natin siya. So we're trying to change this. So if I'm going to change it to, for example, the first one would be call 1, and then the second would be, let's say, 6. What should be the third? Para ma-maintain nato ang 100%. That is 5, right? Because 1 plus 6, that is 7, plus 5, that is 12. 12, we know that 12 is 100%. So let's say that, and then let's reload. Alright. So, wala na usog ang iyang forma, ang iyang layout, ang forma, na usog na ang iyang layout. So, next, we are going, for example, we will change this 1 to 1 na po. Ganan ko nga 1 ra po ang iyang side dire. Then here is gonna be 10. Right? To keep it 100%. So let's reload. and a. All right, or if I'm going to change it to, let's say, 2, and this is also 2, then this should be pilaman 8. All right, and a. Okay, so that is the importance of grid because it will allow us to easily, sayo na lang kayo na to control the layout of our work. Do you have any question? I'm going to send it to you. Isa na ko ninyo kaning example. Kaning particular ng example, kaning siya mismo. Isa na ko ninyo so that you can study it on your own. Okay. So, that is great, everyone. And I'm now medyo nag-libog because ako, nagka-problema po ako ang computer today. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to really explain it thoroughly because of the technical problems. But hopefully na gets the gyapon. And again, if you have na may clarification, please let me know. So, to summarize everything that we did today, basically, we're going to create a grid for us to be able to, for us to create layouts much easier. Para mas sayon rin nato ang pag-create of layouts when we design website, responsive website, is that first is we're going to, we should always start with this. Box sizing, border box, margin is 0, padding is 0. That's the first thing that we're going to do. Second is we're going to create the grids. So basically, for our grids, it must be 12. At least 12. Some other designer will perhaps ganaganahan sila nga mas detailed jud kaayo lang trabaho. Maybe they will divide the 100% to perhaps more. So either there will be, let's say, um, pwede natong butangan og 20 ka columns. Therefore, we're going to divide 100 divided by 20, then each column will have 5%. Diba? Pwede na. But right now, we're just going to utilize the 12 column grid. Okay, so to create 12 column grid, so you can either just copy paste this. Just make sure na each column will have 8.33% na width. So for the column 2, you just have to multiply it by 2. So 8 times 0.33, 8.33 times 2, that is 16.66. For the third column, that is 8.33 times 3, that is 25. And then for column 4, 8.33 times 4, that is 33.33, so on and so forth, until mabot ka sa 100%. Because our goal is to utilize the entire screen of the device, which is 100%. And then next is, we have to make sure that each column is float left. Now, pwede na ito islat direct float left binagsa. Obviously, pwede na ito siyang islat direct. Binagsa, copy-paste na ito na. Copy na ito. However, just to show you a trick in CSS, you can always design, or you can always add a property for the entire, for all the class name that has similar name, just like this. Since they are all similar, they only differ with the number. So what we did is we selected all, meaning all class that starts with call dash. Alright, so this is what it means. So all class that starts with call minus the I, then you can add the properties. And here we added float left, meaning all the properties that start, or all the CSS properties that starts with call one will have float left property. Okay, and then another thing is that is on mobile, but on I'm sorry, that is on the desktop view, but on mobile view we have to cancel this. So for us to, because in mobile we don't want to use the column most of the time. We want the columns to be cancelled whenever we're already on a mobile view, para dagko ra gyapon nato makita sa atong mobile device. That's why we use kani. So same thing in our app media screen, and then max with 600 pixel, meaning from 600 pixel and below, the width from all the columns, di ba? That's all the class that starts with column would have width of 100%. So dili na siya 8, dili na siya 16%, dili na siya 25%, but automatically 100%. Okay? Do you have any questions? Guys?
Wala, sir.
Alright. So your assignment is you go back to your project katong gigama last time, and then you're going to create kani gama mo wireframe. So you can use any editing software. Let's say if you have Photoshop, you can use Photoshop. Or if you have Canva, if kabalo mo gamit og Canva online, you can use Canva, or you can just use Word. All right, Microsoft Word lang, and then you have to send a. You're going to attach this wireframe. So as you can see, medyo taas siya because we're scrolling it down. So this is the view, kana view. If we're going to view it 100%, mo na siya itsura. And then if we scroll, if we, diba, mag-scroll man tayo pag website. So imagine that you are scrolling, and this is what it's gonna look like. Alright, so you don't have to be very good. Maalam dili kayo nindot so long as ma-emphasize na ang yang layout. Because that is what you're going to do whenever you're going to create your. As we go along with our course, you're going to create that website itself. You're going to translate from web design using, or from design using Photoshop to web design using coding. Alright, so once you've already created your wireframe just like this, you're going to submit the codes, the screenshot of the codes, and the CSS that you've created, and the output of course for the layout. So kani lang, wala pa lang sulod. Mga boxes pa lang sa, for example, this one is for, in my case, this is for the banner, this is for katong na ay graphic design, kani, this is for the web design, diri ang web design nga word, then diri ang picture, then diri ang katong about me. Alright? Nasabtan lang? Alright. So that'll be all for today. Stand by for the link for the assessment, and I'm going to upload the assignment later on. So can you please turn on your cameras before we end? Gala ang computer namin siya. I-upgrade mo na eh. Alright. Okay, ready? 3. Wala, di ko open ang uban. Alright, ready? 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay. Okay. Alright. Thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you on our next class. Amping mo.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Goodbye.
Bye, sir. Thank you. And thank you. Bye, sir.
Goodbye.